So we're here to talk about integration, and there are actually few amount of people.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised to see that many people here. It's not exactly a sexy subject, very, very dry.
So we keep it light for today. So integration, so let's have a little bit of background on me, and I wanted to show you actually how my connections are integrated. So I started out with LinkedIn using it heavily on the right-hand side for you, where I was a staffing recruiter. So that's the green part. And I was trying to get people working in the Netherlands on SAP. So those are the blue dots. I then actually moved over to Oracle to work in the human capital management sector. And there I wanted to help customers to better understand their performance management, their succession planning, and also their talent acquisition. And that's when I moved to LinkedIn, where I am in the technical consulting team.
So my network is not quite as large as Lubert's. On the bottom right-hand corner over there, that's my uni days. The bottom left is when I worked in AMD, and then the top left right now is ARM. So just a quick question in here. Who here has a smartphone? Just show of hands. Most everybody. All right, better question is, who doesn't have a smartphone? Not a single hand.
Everybody.
So what is ARM? ARM is a company that designs IP that goes into 95% of all smartphones in the world. So everybody is pretty much using one of our products that doesn't know it. So since 2009, when the smartphone revolution really took off, actually 2007 with iPhones, to now, it's just kind of blown up. You can see how much increase in power and performance that we've done, but we're not just in mobile computing. We are in servers, Internet of Things. So if you have a Fitbit like this, which then we're in these. So in servers, we are pretty much everywhere these days. And can't really see, oh, you can't really see it, okay. So it looks a little fuzzy on the screen down here. So we're also partnering with companies like UNICEF to change healthcare. So we are in a lot of different fields, and actually 60% of our revenue comes from outside of smartphones.
So when I first spoke to Rick, he was telling me all about ARM. And I was thinking, when he used an analogy, that we could also use it for today. So we're right before lunch. So I hope you're going to enjoy lunch, but for this one I wanted to share with you the analogy that Rick used that explains to you what ARM actually does.
So think of ARM as a recipe company. We make recipes for pancakes. What we do is we take those recipes and then we license that entire cookbook out to companies like Apple, Samsung, Qualcomm, all the big players. And then what they do is put their special ingredients around it to optimize it for their phones, iPhones, tablets, whatever you want to call it. And then that's how we make our revenue stream. So we license that entire book out.
So why are we here? So integration, it's a difficult topic, and we can spend a lot of time talking about it, but I want to try and keep it light. So we're going to talk about what cross-system awareness is and the apply with LinkedIn. So quick show of hands, who's actually heard or is using cross-system awareness? I see four or five, right.
Not very many people.
That's going to be interesting. Apply with LinkedIn, who's using that? Right, half of the room, good stuff. So we're going to see a little bit, talk about what it actually does and how it can benefit you. And we're going to relate it to how it actually relates to and relevant is for ARM.
So how do we use it at ARM for talent pool management and for faster business impact? That's basically keyword for reduced time to hire. So this is from an infographic from the middle of this year for ARM, and it's already severely outdated. So on the bottom left here, you see our number of requisitions and number of applications that's gone up. We are turning 25 this year, and 5 years ago, we were a little under 2,000 employees. Now we are almost to 3,900 employees, so double the growth in 5 years. And these aren't sales marketing roles, these are engineering roles, very, very hard to find roles. So I will be remiss from my TA team here if I don't give them a shout out. We've had 1,000 gross hires since the beginning of this year. We're not done yet.
So what is cross-system awareness? I would say in one sentence, you can basically see the member information, the most recent, in your ATS. So the first question I always get is, do we get a copy of LinkedIn? Well, that's not exactly true. So what I wanted to show you today is what cross-system awareness is and how it can leverage for you. So the 4 parts we're going to look in today is the badge that you can see in the LinkedIn Recruiter seat, the profile plugin that you will see in your ATS, and we're going to talk about emails and notes via the History API. Quick show of hands, who knows what an API is? Right, not everybody, so let's use an analogy.
More pancakes.
4 pancakes. So think of an API that's a connection between 2 different cookbooks. It contains recipes, and every recipe is a bit different, and you want to have a single bit of the recipe in one cookbook, but also in the other one. So the pancake analogy, I wanted to say, okay, the most important ingredient I would say is beer. Makes it taste better. And if it was in one cookbook, you want to have the API to automatically communicate that to the other one so it's nice and synchronized. On the right-hand side, you see a couple of ATSs. Most of them are probably well known to you. And on the left-hand side, we have LinkedIn. So that's the API part. But you want to see the information of the member in your ATS. But you also want to see on LinkedIn who you already have in your ATS. So this is where the badge comes in. There are 2 places where you can see the badge. On the top hand, we see when you do a search in your LinkedIn Recruiter seat and you have the whole list of members, you want to know, okay, which one is actually already in contact with my company and stored in our ATS. So that's where you see in ATS, or you can change that. But also on the profile itself, it has a button. So what does that button do? It shows you information about the candidate, and this will be the location, the title, the company, the industry, but most importantly, it contains the deep link to that candidate in your ATS. So I told you I was working as a recruiter earlier on. So for me, this was very useful to actually, if I would have had it, for a search. So I was constantly searching for people and trying to find SAP consultants. But a lot of my colleagues were also actually dialing into the same region, and it quite often happened that in the morning they would speak to somebody and I would find the same person in the afternoon and say, hi, I'm calling from K2 and I want to actually speak to you. And they'll be like, look, your colleague just spoke to me. Don't you know that I'm in your system? So this is what the benefit could be. On the other hand, if you're looking actually from your ATS to find a new candidate, it's important to know, okay, who am I actually looking for? So let's say you're interested in seeing who the final round candidate was. They were the ones who just didn't make it to the final cut, but they're very interested in meeting you again, and they know a lot about your company. So there's a relationship already, and you don't want that one to get to waste. So the profile widget shows you information from the LinkedIn profile in your ATS. So if you look on the top-hand side, this is where it becomes interesting in the sense for ARM and talent pool management. So save the project and update me. You're in your ATS, you have information about this candidate, you've known that the candidate might have applied a year ago, but you don't know what the latest information is. So first of all, you see, okay, this candidate is still working at the job they were at the time, and I want to actually save this candidate in the talent pool for a job that is currently open. So save to project is just an easy way to leverage the LinkedIn platform to save to project from your ATS. The other one is that the connection path. People are already in contact with your employees in your company. So if you want to reach out to them, it's useful to see who within your company and within your network is actually already connected with these people that are in your ATS. The relationship is there, and you can better leverage the fact that you already, as a company, have connection. The emails and the notes. So this is actually something that's happening at the back end, so you don't really see it, and this is done via the API. The important thing is, I would say, are for 4 people. This is for the candidate, for the recruiter, for the manager, and for the CEO. So for the candidate, it's important because if you're working on LinkedIn and you're adding a note, perhaps it could be from a member saying, please call me back tomorrow, or you're sending them an email, it's nice if the candidate feels they are appreciated because you remember that this was an information moment. And if you're just working in your ATS, you might miss this information because it's on LinkedIn. So for the recruiter, it's necessary because storing your information and building this relationship is important. So any moment that you're actually reaching out to candidates, you want to have that centralized. And you want to see maybe in a report or run a search in your ATS by saying, give me all the candidates that have been reached out to me in the last couple of months and who haven't replied yet. From a manager perspective, it could be interesting because a lot of managers ask me, okay, how do I manage my KPIs? People are sending in mails via LinkedIn, and there's no way for me to measure if they're actually doing anything and reaching out to people. Again, this will be then synchronized, and you can run that report directly from your ATS. I also have CEOs asking, it's company information that my recruiters are actually building on the LinkedIn platform. And what happens if they leave and they actually go to another company? That information might be lost. And again, it's about the relationship. So having that information synchronized in your system, it won't get lost. So that's the in-mail and notes API. And why is this relevant for ARM?
So why is this relevant for ARM? So our recruiters have to build talent pools. So we use PeopleFluent for our ATS, and we also use SAP as our core HR. So how do the systems talk to each other? Right now, it's a very manual process. What we do within PeopleFluent is we have a 4-digit requisition number, and then we also have the title of the job. So we'll do that, and then it also gets created in SAP. But then within the LinkedIn portion, we'll actually create projects around Boolean searches. And that way we can sync easily from system to system. Now, how does that help us? It provides the recruiters the ability to go back and easily track. But say it's for a role that we hire for quite frequently, a design engineer. For the future, after that rec is closed, we can just take it off and put it as design engineer. After that, the recruiters can go in and look for that talent pool. If it's somebody that we've already hired on, then great, they're no longer in there. But we still have the top candidates that they searched for previously. So social recruitment on a global scale. I didn't really explain what I did. I'm the social recruiting manager at ARM. My background is in marketing, branding, and social media. Nothing to do with talent acquisition at all. So I've been with ARM for about 15 months now, so it's been of an uphill learning curve for me. And how you recruit on social is quite different from region to region. So we have, obviously, the US and the UK. We have our India offices and then our China offices. You're not going to be able to use Twitter and Facebook over in China. So how do we do that? We create a centralized EVP, and then we propagate that out. And we have a quick short video to showcase what our EVP is going to be.
I chose to join ARM because of the culture. The company is built on meritocracy, innovation, and collaboration. There is a real sense of purpose at ARM. Everyone shows a strong commitment to their work and a passion for progress. And it doesn't matter who you are, it's all about what you can deliver. ARM is committed to building a diverse, inclusive workplace. We are making real efforts and embarking on a shared quest to ensure that women and men are given the opportunity to step forward, gain visibility, and receive mentoring throughout their journey at ARM. We're also setting up internal forums to share experience and making sure there are great role models to inspire our colleagues, as well as investing in STEM activities to ensure we reach the next generation of technology creators.
One of the surprising things about working for engineering companies like ARM is just how different the workplace is from what people may expect. Images come up of oil rigs or working in isolated or noisy environments. When in reality, if you enjoy problem solving, being creative and collaborating with other intelligent people, it's modern and inspiring. Nothing like the stereotypes. It's important that we explain to young women with a talent in science and maths that a STEM degree opens up a whole realm of opportunities. It's open different ways of viewing challenges, and diversity drives innovation.
I've always been motivated by building things, and I enjoy creating something new and lasting, and I've always loved to challenge myself. The best teams I've worked with have been the most diverse and inclusive, because they brought together people with different perspectives, styles and skills. For me, your gender, sexuality, disability are immaterial. At ARM, I get to work with some incredibly bright and motivated people. We have a genuinely open culture, which makes it easy to have challenging and difficult conversations that ultimately benefit ARM, and that's really rare.
My mom was the first woman in India to be a commercial photographer. which was a big deal at the time, and she always taught me to persist and break through barriers I otherwise thought were impossible. What I love about my job is that every day I have no idea what the day is going to bring. If I could say one thing to any woman thinking about a career in ARM or in engineering, the main thing I would say is that you have to be yourself. It's easy to try and fit in with the mold, but you have to be authentic and true to yourself. Being different is actually an advantage. It makes you stand out and make people remember you. Embrace your diversity, whatever it is.
So after the traction of that, we want to make it easy for applicants to apply. And that's how we move on to.
Yeah, so apply with LinkedIn. There are a couple of ways. You can have people who are actually applying on the LinkedIn platform, and you collect these people in your recruiter seat. But the apply with LinkedIn is about the integration with your ATS. And we want to focus on a couple of things. So member profile, it contains a lot of information that you can leverage in your search of the right candidate. So we can talk about positions, education, skills, location, industry of a candidate. But we also want to see how can we use the apply with LinkedIn. First of all, have a better candidate experience, to see what this structured data can do for you, and to search within your ATS on particular stuff like skills. So we have a quick example of the form that we all well know. If you want to apply for a job, you want to fill out all the information, and if you have to do it manually, a lot of people might actually drop off. So with the apply with LinkedIn, a lot of the fields are actually pre-filled for the candidate. So this improves their candidate experience. Not only is it just pre-filled, it's information that is structured. So it comes into your system in a way that actually tells, okay, this is information that are about skills, about the location. And this is different than if you upload a CV, which are only just keywords, and the system might not really recognize if somebody's actually living in a city or they might have worked in that city. So that's the benefit of having this information structured. On the right-hand side, you see a couple of skills, and the skills are more of what ARM wants to achieve in saying, okay, this is a way of finding the right candidate in your ATS with a certain skill set. And skills is not something that you actually get out of a CV and saying, okay, what are the work experience, but what are the skills of people?
So again, why is this relevant for ARM? So of the 3,900 employees that we have globally, 80% of them are engineers. And not just any engineers, they're both split 50-50 on hardware and software. So we need to have hardware engineers who know a little bit of software. We need to have software engineers who know a little bit of hardware as well. So it's a very fine balance of how we approach the market. So a little bit of a shout out for the BBC. We're working with them to create the microbit, which gives every single child in the UK a microbit machine. It's a mini computer that they can use to learn about STEM and coding. But that's a large undertaking. So we have to have, again, the hardware and the software engineers. So we use the tagging portions within PeopleFluent and then sync that up with the tagging portions within LinkedIn as well. So you can easily go back and search for those key skills that's already in your talent pools.
So what's next? We actually have some additional time to have a lot of Q&A because I always get a lot of questions about integration, and that's right before lunch.
It is a very subtle message to make you guys hungry.
So any questions?